they can put in all these hurdles for people to get benefits, and they don't need to actually change the law or even, publish a regulation. So they can do that. Worksite limitations. They're going to put in tougher rules with reference to third-party client sites. I was talking about employer-employee rules. Again, this was published online as a proposed regulation, but it was never actually published as a proposed regulation or a final regulation. But this could happen again under his next in the next administration. And this can also decrease the eligibility for a person to file a H1 if they're working for an end client and not directly for their employer. It can also decrease the eligibility if they ask again for contracts, space orders, for the duration of the entire 3 years. And as we know, the consulting companies use, most of the H1s. So if they stop the consulting companies or curtail the consulting companies from filing H1s by increasing eligibility requirements, and most of the H1s will not be used. So that's also something to keep in mind. Are there any counterbalances to all this? There might be. Litigation is definitely a counterbalance. The administration will be on their toes because last year, last administration, a lot of litigation was filed. And, the people who filed the litigation, such as IT Serve and ALA, they even won those cases. So we can expect that this time the Trump administration will be on their toes and they will look at regulation carefully, hopefully, before they publish it, because they want to make sure that it's litigation proof. Also, another good thing is there are some supporters of Trump, such as Elon Musk and some other billionaires, who are pro legal immigration. So let's hope that he will listen to them rather than listen to his other policy makers who are anti-immigration. Next slide. So impact on immigration as a whole, we were talking about H-1Bs, but in general, they will reintroduce new policies, revive the policies that they had previously, such as the public charge law, which kind of decreased the ability of people to file green card because they increased the the definition of who can be a public charge. That is, who can take benefits from the government. If someone takes benefits from the government or may take benefits for their government as per the officer, then they will not be given the green card. So that's the public charge rule. So they can bring back their stricter definition of who is a public charge. They can bring back Title 42, which didn't allow a lot of people into the country, asylum seekers, on health grounds. They can bring back the Muslim ban. They can bring back the executive order BAHA, which is Buy America, Hire America, which resulted in all policies, all benefit-based policies, immigration policies becoming more stricter. As I was saying, we can expect legal challenges to all this. So let's see how the court battles happen and what will happen during the course of these lawsuits. Of course, we can expect the tech industries like IT Serve and other industries, and all the big companies, Amazon, Google, etc., to push back and try to get Trump's ear, or at least file litigation if they're not able to, which happened last year as well with reference to H4 EADs. A conglomerate of many companies got together and filed that H4 litigation suit that resulted in the settlement agreement that we talked about earlier. Outlook for high-skilled immigration, like for green cards, is bleak. If they continue with this restrictive approach, we can't expect visa numbers to open up. We can't expect any new laws to pass, since the Republicans have control of both the House and the Senate, unless they change their minds with reference to their policy that they're going to adopt. And we can expect processing time delays like we did under the previous administration. So let's see what happens with reference to that. Next slide. Um, Also, there's some programs may be curtailed, such as DACA and TPS. DACA is deferred action for childhood arrival. So children who came before the age of 18 went to high school here. Right now, they are not being deported. They're being given advance parole to travel and EAD to work. So that program might end under Trump, or it might be litigated. So they might roll it back. Right now, it's in status quo. TPS, temporary protection, protected status for people who come from war-ridden areas or places of conflict, or maybe if they have had a weather disaster there, some kind of natural calamity, then those people are given TPS, temporary protected status. They're given EADs, and they are not removed from the country until and from the US until their country conditions improve. So that's TPS, and that will be removed under Trump, which he did that last term as well. Also, family-based immigration will be hit because this Trump administration has talked about chain migration, and they want to stop that chain migration of people entering based on their family, and they're bringing their entire family here, and that happening over a period of time. They want it to be more merit based, so they might completely remove family based immigration. But for that, of course, they will have to pass a new law, not just a regulation, but pass a law which has to be approved by the Senate and the House, which is certainly a possibility because Republicans do have majority, at least for the first 2 years. Next slide. So as I was saying, they're more focused on merit-based immigration now, when compared to family-based. So they might move to a point-based system and even remove the H-1B process. But again, for that, they need uh, law to be passed, and which is not easy. So let's see what happens. But their focus is definitely on merit-based, like a point-based system. But I don't know if they're focused enough to care about legal immigration at all, and do anything constructive. I'm not sure merit-based immigration is the answer and is constructive, but I don't know if they will put in their time to think about it. But they have definitely said that they wanted to do it. Next slide. In addition to that impact that we've seen, there will be an impact with reference to enforcement and compliance as well. Definitely increased I-9 audits, FDNS checks. So when you file a H1, you're paying part of the processing fee goes to contractors, FDNS officers, who then come and check the work site, check the employer site, go to the work location, whether it be a home or an office location, to make sure that you're compliant with your, with what you said with on your LCA. So I think meticulous compliance is required, not only your I-9 forms, but also your forms with reference to your H-1B, your compliance with reference to maintaining your H-1B folders properly. All that has to be done meticulously. Contact your attorney to make sure you're doing all the compliance with reference to document maintenance to avoid, any kind of penalties. Or blacklisting your company also can happen if you're not compliant. So site visits and audits will definitely increase like they did in the last term. They might make E-Verify mandatory. Right now, E-Verify is only mandatory if you're filing STEM OPT for your employee. E-Verify is a website, which electronic database, which you have to register on, and you have to make sure that um, when you register, you put everyone through the E-Verify website to make sure that they have the proper documentation to work. So that might be made mandatory for everyone, for H1Bs, for everyone other than just STEM OPT. So this just delays the, and put more spokes in the wheel, uh, which is right now, running relatively smoothly. Next. So, did we do the previous slide? Yeah, I think we did, right? Can we just go back? Yeah, okay. So we talked about enforcement. Let's talk about some regulatory and judicial challenges as well that we're expecting. Policy orders, changes through executive orders can happen. Um, so it could happen on day one. Um, last term, we passed this Baja executive order, Buy America, Hire America, which led to all the processes getting slowed down or restricted. So that was basically one executive order, which all USCIS, Department of Labor, Department of State, everybody then followed that and then started restricting approvals and eligibility. So one executive order like that is enough to restrict the approval rate of any case that you file. So we're expecting those executive orders. Last year, he also used Title 42. He had a ban on uh, people coming from all Muslim countries, from 7 or 8 Muslim countries. So he did a lot via executive orders to curtail immigration. And he also did that through regulation, as we discussed previously. Impact on green cards on visa categories. So we're talking about immigrant visa categories here, AB2 and AB3. There will be a heightened scrutiny of the labor market. So when you're filing a labor cert, you can expect many more audits on your labor cert filing. Right now, we are not getting that many audits um, on labor certs, and therefore labor certs are going smoothly and they're being processed within 6 to 8 months. Under Trump's administration, we received a lot of audits from the Labor Department asking for documentation to show that advertisements were placed, asking for business necessity documents as to why a master's degree is required or why a certain number of years of experience is required. So questioning our requirements. And that led to delays in approvals of perm. So perms can get delayed up to 1.5 years if there is an audit, as opposed to getting approved in 6 to 8 months. In addition to that, the Labor Department can conduct supervised recruitment whenever they want to be stricter, meaning that it's a completely different process. Now all the resumes go directly to them. They will send them to you, and then you have to continue the perm process. So it's a much lengthier process when you have a supervised recruitment. Also, I-140s can get RFE, the ability to pay issue. And also, we have seen under the Trump administration that they brought in the employer-employee relationship or right to control issues into the I-140 space as well, not just the H-1B space. And they were sending out RFEs and delaying cases, and you know we had multiple problems with reference to that. Next slide. We talked about H4 EAD issues. Now they could also restrict STEM OPTs because STEM OPT was done by regulation. So they can remove that regulation, which allows students to get an extended 2 month, a 2 year optional practical training if they go to STEM schools, if they've completed a STEM major. So that's possible that they may remove STEM OPT as well. Let's wait and see if they have the time to do all this, but this is certainly in their agenda, what they want to do. Uh, so, with reference to the border, as I talked about, there were several travel bans and entry restrictions last time. That can continue to happen. Visas might become an issue because the Department of State will be told to restrict the visas. So, obviously, employees will then face delays in, hiring talent. Uh, and so they should, businesses should adjust for this. If possible, restrict your employees' travel if possible to only necessary travel. Whatever petitions you have, file them now under premium processing rather than waiting for next year to file. I mean, this is my suggestion with reference to how to avoid, these restrictions that may come about. So as I talked about, entry restrictions could be there. Title 42 could come back. Muslim ban could come back. Next, next slide. So we're only talking about potentially what we can see. I'm hoping that it won't happen. And I'm hoping that even if it happens, we can fight it, right? The courts are there. And I'm hoping some common sense will prevail, and Trump will listen to the side that talks about, common sense rather than listening to the extreme right part of his administration. So let's wait and see. So as I was saying, asylum could definitely be affected. They can bring back Title 42. Title 42 is an old law which limited people crossing the border based on public health concerns. So during COVID, he bought this Title 42 and continued it even after COVID. So asylum applications at the border had become almost zero. They were not giving any asylum approvals at the border, not allowing anyone to apply for asylum at the border. Biden administration came in, removed it last year, so they still had it until last year, and they introduced something called CBP-1, whereby there was an app, and they were allowed to apply for asylum at the border, but they were limiting the number of daily entries to only a certain number every day. So that's how they came up with a solution with reference to offering asylum or restricting asylum at the border. So let's see what happens moving forward, whether Trump will use Title 42 or he'll use something else to restrict asylum. Next. Also, as I was talking about who has Trump's ear, right? So his administration is important and what they think and how they think, and their background is important. So he has already appointed Tom Homan as the border czar. This is not position that requires any okay from the Senate and the House. This is basically not, a position which is a government position, so it does not require uh, any approval from the House or the Senate. So this kind of position is out of the government, and basically he will give policy or give ideas to Trump, and then Trump will, the Trump's administration will then, process it or administer it or do whatever they see fit. So Tom Homan is someone who would bring in stricter deportation policies, um, advocate for more workplace raids, and he believes in mass deportation operations. He's talked about mass deportation. Yeah, he's been talking continuously about mass deportation and how he intends to do it, and that's why Trump has made him the border czar. So increased focus on sanctuary cities. So he's going to, like cities like New York, which uh, don't listen to the federal government with reference to immigration policies, and don't believe in strict in the federation the policies, immigration policies that the federal government wants to implement. The Republicans are calling them sanctuary cities. So they want to remove federal funding from sanctuary cities to make them compliant with their view of immigration policy, and to take their help in mass deportation activities, because they need then the police to be involved, the local government to be involved, otherwise it cannot happen. They want to improve, in order to do mass deportation, you have to really exponentially improve your detention capacity or expand your detention capacity. So they want to do that. They want to build the wall, which they did not finish last time. They, I think, finished one third of the wall, and with $7 million spent. He plans to do worst first policy under a worst operate under a worst first policy, meaning that people who have committed crimes and serious crimes, he wants to deport them first and then deport the other people later. This he said when somebody asked him how you plan to deport millions of illegal immigrants at one time. He said he's going to take it step by step. He's also known for his zero tolerance policy. Um, and because of the zero tolerance policy, we saw parents detained separately from their children, because he wanted to treat anyone who came across the border illegally with zero tolerance. So he immediately detained them and separated the children from the parents. Next slide. And this led to last term um, the separation of children from families, and this was taken up by the press and all humanitarian organizations, and it led to it had devastating humanitarian impact. Even today, there are families, children who are still separated from their families. Children were put also in detention facilities, which look like jails. Even babies were put in detention facilities. So this was really a disaster from a humanitarian point of view. Um, he's also appointed Stephen Miller as his deputy White House chief of staff, who will have a huge say with reference to policy. Of course, again, this is not a formal appointment. It's informal, like just like the border czar position. So they again, Stephen Miller and his appointees will make a huge difference with reference to uh, how immigration will play out. And this not only we're talking about USCIS, but also we're talking about other agencies which will be impacted. Department of Health and Human Services, which play a role in refugee resettlement, and when unaccompanied minors cross the border, they play a role. Department of Labor, which plays a role in issuing LCAs for H1s, in issuing green cards, labor certs for green cards. State Department, they'll give they'll send out instructions to the State Department. This is people who issue the visas. Justice Department, they run the immigration court. So all the departments will be impacted, and they can easily send out instructions to all these departments to curtail, the flow of immigration. And this is what they intend to do. Next slide. I think we're done. Um, okay. Do you want to talk about the poll, Vishal, that we did? I think my presentation said it aptly that I am not uh, very optimistic about opportunities for immigrants in the next 4 years. I hope I'm wrong, but I am not positive about it, that there'll be a positive outcome. So I think, yes, there will definitely be a negative impact on immigration? Yeah, I mean, of course, it's our audience. We do a lot of legal immigration, so I'm not surprised. Also, with reference to what is important to people, because it's their livelihood. So a lot of, I think I'm not surprised by this outcome that, this is what people are concerned about. Um, I think that's from OM. I am not, as I just told you, hopeful that this will happen. And I am not also certain that the new administration will be pro-legal immigration. I think they'll be against both, try to curtail both legal as well as illegal immigration. And the reason I say this is because that's what they did in their last term. And also I'm saying this because that's what Stephen Bannon and these people, that's what they believe in. And that's how they won the election, because all across the world, in fact, this has become a trend, anti-immigration trend. And governments are winning elections, parties are winning elections based on this anti-immigrant sentiment. So this is what's happening in the US also. So I am not hopeful that they are pro-legal immigration. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you are right. And I hope that they will increase the visa numbers, because they certainly have the bandwidth to do so if they want to, since they have, both the House and the Senate majority, and I'm sure they can get Democrats to agree with them with reference to this Eagle Act or whatever new act that they might reintroduce again. Let's see what happens. I hope it happens. Yes, absolutely. Until January 20th, USCIS will be controlled by Biden, not Trump, because Trump's administration takes over only after he's sworn in. That happens on January 20th. So until then, if you have any cases that you're planning to file, please do file them. And not only that, you have to file them premium processing, because any cases that are pending after January 20th will come under the new administration, and they can deal with them as they see fit. That is a good question, Deepa. And my answer is yes, I think you should upgrade all pending H1s to premium processing. And with reference to increased chance of RFE, even if there is an increased chance of RFE, which I never believe is true. I know a lot of people say once you do premium processing, you will get an RFE because they don't want to process your case. So this is a way for them to delay their case. But even if there is, you do get an RFE, the chances are you're more likely to get an approval under the present administration rather than under the Trump administration. So I would still advocate for premium processing. So we have to wait and see what happens with reference to H4 EADs. In order for them to remove H4 EADs, they will have to pass a regulation. So there will be first a proposed regulation. There will be first, yes, a proposed regulation which will be published. And so you will have, then they will wait for comment period. It's unlikely that this H4 EAD regulation will be passed as an interim regulation without comment period. So I'm thinking that you will have enough notice to know whether this is going to happen or not. And then you can take action at that point and maybe change status to an F1 at that point rather than doing it now. Yes, sure. You can email me, and uh, I can definitely help you with that, and we can give you my email address. It's prashanthi@readyesq.com. Um, in addition to that, O1 is, not everyone qualifies for an O1, so we have to make sure that you qualify. So we can definitely do that assessment with reference to whether you qualify or not. Once we get a resume from you, which is shows your qualifications, you have to show that you have, extraordinary ability in a particular field, and that field that you're in helps uh, the US in some way. Can I be on an F1 and have an LLC? Yes, you can. It doesn't necessarily affect your F1 as long as you have an EAD, that is, you're authorized to work. But remember, in order to uh, be on an F1 OPT, you have to work in the area where in which you have completed the major. So it has to be related. So that's the caveat for doing something out of your own company. But again, USCIS might not look at this as a valid job offer because you own the company. So if you're doing this on the side in addition, then it should be okay. Um, it is a gray area, but doing this as the only way of remaining here on an OPT may not be a good idea. uh, I can't predict what the job market is. I can only predict what the immigration laws, how they might change. Um, so, yeah, I don't know what the job market will be. Ashok, we don't know. Maybe there won't be, I'm hoping, but if they pass a regulation to remove STEM OPT, then that might impact you because that I'm hoping again that won't affect people who are already on STEM OPT because then they'll just immediately fall out of status. And, I don't think any judge will uh, approve that if it goes to court because, to make a law retroactive is then very difficult and unfair to people who have relied that and gotten onto that status. So it might not affect you if you're already on STEM OPT, but it might affect people who are going to file for STEM OPT. And this is presuming that it actually happens. And again, there has to be a regulation, so there is a process for it. They will first publish the proposal, get comment. There's a comment period, so all this will take a few months. We will know it's not going to happen out of the blue unless they do an interim regulation, which again is unlikely to be approved by a judge if it goes to court. Because there is no, it's difficult for USCIS to show what the urgency was. This is only 4 years, guys. It's not, uh, you know, the time, I mean, it's not the rest of your life. We already had 4 years under Trump. We know how to deal with it. You have to have the proper guidance. You have your immigration attorneys like me who can give you guidance and counseling to help you out with reference to your immigration status. You have the courts. You have common sense. Hopefully, common sense will prevail. But it's only 4 years and it'll pass. So don't panic. The reason I'm telling you all this is so that you can be prepared, not so that you can panic. Just so that you can prepare. If there's something you can do beforehand, you can get it done. That's the only reason, for this whole webinar. Not so just be prepared, and 4 years will pass. Thank you. Thank you.